So my dad recently sent me a bunch of memorabilia and Blue Angel souvenirs from air shows that I attended as a kid, including a bunch of these, which are the pamphlets that they hand out on Crowdline for spectators to get autographs from the pilots. I have a whole set here from 1996 to 2003, but this one in particular stuck out to me. This one from 1999, which features a Blue Angel F-18 Hornet landing on an aircraft carrier. It turns out, in the 78 years that the Blue Angels have existed, this is the only time that this has ever happened. And we're going to talk about it. You'd think that a naval demonstration team would want to show off the things that are unique about naval aviation. And there's nothing more unique about naval aviation than landing on an aircraft carrier. It's considered one of the hardest things you can do in terms of aviation, period. You're talking about landing a 20-ton jet, sometimes bigger, on a postage stamp, essentially, in the middle of the ocean, oftentimes at night, oftentimes in rough seas with the deck pitching up and down, and you got to land that thing, and when they hit the deck, they go full throttle. If they miss the wire, they better be at full power so they can keep flying, right? It's that life or death. It's crazy. You'd think the Blue Angels would want to showcase that and land on an aircraft carrier with their blue jets, but no, this is the only time it's ever happened in 1998. Now, of course, they've flown by aircraft carriers before. Here's a pamphlet just from the year before. I know they flew by aircraft carriers also during the Operation America Strong in 2020 during the COVID flyovers. Near aircraft carriers is one thing, but actually landing on one, it's only happened one time. So why is that? Well, it's not because the jets can't do it. So every Blue Angel jet is converted from a fleet jet. The conversions are pretty minimal. It's mostly just the smoke and the paint and a few other like software things that are changed. In terms of the landing gear and the tail hook, all that stuff is totally usable, as is all the instrumentation that would be needed to conduct a carrier landing. In fact, I actually went to an air show last year at Point Mugu in which one of the jets was coming in for a landing and they had to wave off at the last minute. Circled around the whole base and came and landed on a separate runway that had arresting hooks set up on it. They have those at naval bases typically so naval aviators can practice landing on carriers before they actually go out and do it, and also for those emergency situations in which it's unsafe to land conventionally and they need to stop quickly. So I actually watched a blue jet do a tailhook landing. So it's not because of the jets. It's actually a pilot issue. Now, the Blue Angel pilots are some of the best in the Navy, right? This is not a personal knock on them. In fact, it's actually a requirement of the job. All Blue Angel pilots have to be carrier qualified in order to become Blue Angels. So it's not about their skill level. It's actually more about how long it's been since they've done it. So in order to be able to land on aircraft carriers, you have to have a carrier qualification. So you have to go through a whole training program where you're in a training jet. You start by landing at bases and practicing there, and then you have to actually go out and land on an aircraft carrier in order to get qualified to do it for real in the fleet. And then once you're in the fleet on an active assignment, you're going to be on an aircraft carrier. So you're going to be flying on and off that thing all the time. And every single landing that happens on an aircraft carrier is logged, graded, analyzed, every single time. It's very meticulous. And that actually plays into keeping you carrier qualified because it's actually a perishable skill and it's such a high stakes thing that you can't have someone who hasn't done it in a while be qualified, right? They have to have been continuously doing it. And it turns out if you stop doing it, like if you leave the carrier and go do, another tour, or if you join the Blue Angels, you lose your qualification. So everyone who goes to the Blue Angels, they got a lot of stuff to do, right? They're training. They've got to get up to speed on how to be a Blue Angel. Their schedule is grueling. It's intense. They don't have time to maintain their carrier qualification. And when they're in winter training in El Centro, California, they're basically in the desert. They're not very close to any ocean where there would be a ship. So it's just not practical to keep it up. So while they start off carrier qualified, they actually lose their carrier qualification while they're on the team. So that, of course, brings us to this. How did this happen then, if that's the case? Well, you have to sort of understand a little bit about how the Blue Angel schedule works. So in November, they have their final flight, final show of the year in Pensacola. After that is done, they transition half the team essentially out and newbies come in. Every other year, that happens with the boss, the commanding officer. And so it just so happens in 1998, Boss Dom was finishing up the 1998 season. He handed over the keys to Boss Driscoll, who was brand new on the job. This happened in November of 1998, just a week or two after that homecoming show. So I think you can see where I'm going. Boss Driscoll was just coming off of his fleet assignment and was still within that window where he was considered carrier qualified. So he was, week 1 or 2 of being a Blue Angel, and he got to do this, which is, good for him. He flew out to the boat, landed twice, took off twice. They took a bunch of pictures, and I'm sure there's video somewhere. But speaking of which, if anybody who has knowledge of this is watching this, I would love to see and be able to share that video because I'm sure it's amazing. Someone took a video, right? Like, this is a historic thing. Someone was taking a video. It has to exist. I will find it. Anyway, they did some PR stuff, and he went on the boat, and they talked. It was right around Veterans Day, so he talked to the sailors there about that, and that was kind of it. And that's it. It's done. It's never been done since, and it hadn't been done before that. So it's kind of weird that it only happened once. And because there is so little information about this out there, I actually don't know why it never happened again, but I can wildly speculate, which is what you do on the internet, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to do that. Realistically, what probably happened was someone who had power in some capacity to make this happen had the random idea to hey, we should do this, or someone who had access to a person who had that kind of power. As with anything like this, like 95% of the time, that's the answer. Another contributing factor was probably the fact that this was actually the USS Harry Truman, which at the time was a brand new carrier. It was launched in 96, and then it had 2 years of qualifications that had to happen, and it was actually commissioned officially by the Navy in 1998 in the summer. And there was a whole big pomp and circumstance. I think President Clinton was there, and a whole bunch of important VIPs. And I would actually not be surprised if there was someone requested this to happen at that event in the summer. And the team was like, sorry, nobody on the team is carrier qualified anymore because we're midway through the season, but we can do this, in 6 months when we turn over the team. Honestly, that's probably what happened, but again, wild speculation. Another reason is probably just the comfort level with the aircraft, right? So all jets have sort of a lifespan, right? And that's kind of dictated by the airframe, which is the central structure of the jet, is only rated for a certain number of hours. And it turns out that landing on aircraft carriers is actually pretty intensive to the airframe, because it's a pretty drastic change when they hit the deck. It's G's and negative G's, and it bounces the wings up and down, and it's kind of rough on the airframe. While older jets can land on aircraft carriers, you don't really want to risk it, because you could break the plane essentially if you're not careful. And the Blue Angels notoriously fly the oldest jets in the fleet. Right now they're in Super Hornets that are 20 plus years old, that have a ton of flight hours on them. And they use really old jets because they want to save the newest, latest and greatest jets for active duty fleet members, because that's where it matters. We want to make sure that those assets are out there protecting the country. And so the Blue Angels make do with, the oldest jets in the fleet. So I don't know if they do it right now because they have such old jets. But in the 90s, they actually had pretty new jets. The legacy F-18 Hornet was actually kind of unique in terms of the history of the team. No airplane has been used as long as that one has. It was almost 35 years from 1987 to 2020. I mean, that's a really long time. And the reason for that is because when they started flying it in 1987, it was relatively new. The first F-18s actually entered service with the Marine Corps in 83 and the Navy in 84. So just a few years later, the Blue Angels picked it up. By the time they got to 1998, the jets were still in pretty good shape. I mean, they would have been at most 14-ish, 15-ish years old, which when talking about fighter jets is not actually that old. They're still in pretty good shape. So they probably were in a place where they thought like, hey, we've always used really old planes, but we just so happen to have, relatively fresh jets right now. This is probably a good time if we're ever going to do it. We should do it now while we still have a good stable of jets on the team. Maybe. I don't know. Again, wild speculation. So yeah, that's kind of it. If you have any more information about this, I would love to hear about it. Seriously, this is a fascinating little diversion in Blue Angels history that there's not much information out there. I'd actually like to thank Ryan Notoff, who runs the Blue Angel Phantoms YouTube channel and the Blue Angel Phantoms website. He had kind of the only resource about this, which was a newspaper article from the time that was published and had some details. Also, a big thank you to viewer Lance, who was actually on the ship at the time and sent me this photo. He was there, but he didn't really know a lot of the details of why it happened either. He just was there and was like, hey, I have this picture. It's really cool. And I'd also like to, of course, thank my dad for sending the box of goodies that had these pamphlets in there and all this other Blue Angel stuff you see up here. My dad is a United States Marine Corps veteran, and he was the one who sort of got me into all this stuff in the first place. So happy Father's Day, Dad. Oh, one other thing. If you are a returning viewer of this channel, I had an interview with Boss Wooldridge, who was a 3-time Blue Angel leader in the 90s. We were talking sort of off camera about whether or not I had actually ever met him when I was a kid, and I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember, but now I have proof. Greg Wooldridge, number 1, 1996. So yeah, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel. We have new videos about aviation and the Blue Angels, air shows, all that stuff coming out all the time. You can see them here and here. So yeah, check out all that stuff. And until next time, I'm glad to be here.